The night was suffocating, thick with betrayal. I sat in the dim office, staring at the email that shattered everything. My so-called friend, Daniel, had leaked my work and stolen my future. I clenched my fists, rage burning hot in my chest. Emily said, "You can't just sit here, you have to fight back." Her words echoed, but my mind was spinning, my trust fractured into shards. Daniel smiled in the photo on the article, hailed as a genius for what he took from me. The lies were written in bold letters, my dreams erased. I whispered, "He ruined me." But deep inside a fire sparked, vengeance would be my salvation. Morning light offered no comfort. I walked through the city streets, but whispers of betrayal trailed me like shadows. Billboards flashed Daniel's face, celebrating his rise. Strangers pointed, some recognizing me, their eyes pitying. Emily said, "You don't deserve this. He stole everything." I nodded, but shame pressed on me. The world believed Daniel, not me. I clenched my jaw. My steps grew heavier, every glance a reminder of what I'd lost. I whispered, "They won't remember me like this." Inside, I vowed silently, I'd carve my truth back into the world. I returned home, my sanctuary now a cage of memories. The walls echoed with laughter I once shared with Daniel before betrayal carved a canyon between us. Emily moved through the room quietly, gathering scattered notes. She said, "You need proof, James, not anger." I stared at the board where I once mapped ideas, now a graveyard of stolen dreams. I whispered, "Proof is buried deep, but I'll find it." Rage simmered beneath my grief. The house no longer felt like home. It felt like a battlefield waiting for war. Later that night, silence suffocated the air. I sat alone, the city glowing faintly outside my window. My phone buzzed, a message from Daniel. His words dripped with arrogance. "Better luck next time, old friend." My hand trembled, fury rising like a storm. Emily appeared in the doorway, eyes catching mine. She whispered, "Don't let him break you." But Daniel's smirk lived in my mind, a poison I couldn't purge. I muttered, "He'll regret those words." Outside, thunder cracked, as if the heavens themselves answered my rage. The next morning, I found myself at the edge of a park where Daniel once laughed with me under clear skies. Today the air felt colder, trees skeletal against the gray. Memories stabbed with every step. Emily said, "You can't keep chasing ghosts." I shook my head, eyes locked on the bench where our friendship died. "This is where it started," I whispered. My heart hardened. That day, Daniel planted betrayal like a seed. Now, I would uproot it with fire. The park was no longer a memory. It was my reminder, my battleground. The boardroom was packed, every eye fixed on Daniel as he boasted of achievements that weren't his. I stood in the back, invisible, my chest tight with rage. His voice dripped with confidence, each word twisting the knife deeper. The applause thundered, but it felt like a funeral for my dignity. Emily whispered, "You shouldn't be here, it will break you." I shook my head, unable to leave, unable to let him own the stage without witness. Daniel locked eyes with me briefly, smirk curling as if daring me to act. My hands trembled, but I remained silent, burning with fury. That night, humiliation still clung to me like smoke. I sat alone in the dark, the city skyline glowing outside. Daniel had stolen everything, my work, my credibility, my voice. Emily broke the silence, her tone firm. "If you keep hiding, he wins." I stared at my hands, once tools of creation, now fists of despair. The night pressed heavy, a storm within me. I muttered, "I'll drag him down. I swear it." My words tasted bitter, but they sparked a dangerous clarity. This was no longer just survival. This was war. Days blurred into nights, as rumors spread faster than I could breathe. Colleagues avoided me, whispers curling behind my back. One man muttered, "He plagiarized, everyone knows it." I clenched my teeth, rage boiling. Emily tried to shield me, saying, "Ignore them, you know the truth." But truth was powerless against Daniel's lies. Each step through the office halls felt like walking through fire. My shoulders sagged, pride stripped bare. I muttered under my breath, "I'll make them see, even if it kills me." I reached out to an old mentor, Michael, hoping for guidance. His voice on the phone was heavy with regret. "James, I warned you years ago. Daniel would cut you down." My chest ached, shame clawing at me. "Then why didn't you stop him?" I asked bitterly. Silence answered before he muttered, "Some lessons can't be taught, only survived." His words stung, but they lit a truth I couldn't ignore. I realized I couldn't rely on anyone else. If I wanted justice, it had to be with my own hands. The breaking point came when Daniel paraded on television, praised as a visionary. I watched from my couch, fists shaking. His charm dripped like poison, his lies swallowed whole by the world. Emily sat beside me whispering, "Don't do something reckless." But I was already gone inside, no longer the man I was. "This ends with me," I muttered, rising to my feet. The screen flickered with Daniel's grin, and I swore I'd erase it. Revenge wasn't a choice anymore. It was my destiny. The days of silence were broken by a sudden knock at my door. My heart raced as I opened it to find Michael, the mentor I once relied on. His face bore the scars of a man who had fought his own wars. "You're wasting time, drowning in anger," he said. I stared stunned as guilt washed over me. He stepped inside, his presence commanding the room. "If you want the truth, you need proof, and proof leaves a trail." His words cut sharp, awakening something deep inside. I whispered, "Daniel thinks he buried me, but he's wrong." For the first time in weeks, my despair cracked open into determination. The fire within me wasn't just burning, it was ready to spread. Michael sat heavily at the table, pulling out a worn folder. Papers slid across wood, filled with Daniel's contracts, signatures, and financial slips. "He's been sloppy," Michael muttered, tapping the pages. My pulse quickened. Emily leaned forward, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. "This could expose him," she whispered. I clenched my jaw, scanning the damning evidence. "Why help me now?" I asked. Michael's gaze hardened. "Because I've seen what betrayal does. Don't let him take more from you." His voice carried the weight of his past, but for me, it carried a spark of salvation. For hours we pored over documents, piecing together the puzzle Daniel never wanted solved. Fraud, theft, betrayal. His empire was built on rot. I felt fury give way to clarity. Emily scribbled notes whispering, "This is enough to bring him down." I looked at her, eyes burning. "Not yet," I replied. Michael raised a brow. "Then, what are you waiting for?" My voice hardened. I want him to feel what I felt. Humiliation, fear, loss. Silence thickened, but my resolve cut through it. I wasn't just chasing justice anymore. I was rewriting the script of his downfall. The night stretched long, but exhaustion couldn't dim the spark inside me. Emily sat beside me, her head heavy with worry. Michael leaned back, arms crossed, eyes calculating. He finally spoke. "You have two paths. Expose him now or strike harder when he's blind." His words rang like prophecy. I stared at the window, rain carving lines across glass. "He deserves more than exposure," I muttered. Emily's voice shook. "Don't lose yourself, James." Her fear echoed in my chest, but I knew she couldn't stop me now. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one within me. By dawn, the choice was clear. I stood, shoulders squared, voice steady. "We don't just reveal him, we destroy him." Emily's eyes widened, tears glimmering. "James, if you do this, there's no going back." Michael rose, slow and deliberate, his hand gripping my shoulder. "Then let him be ready to pay." The city skyline beyond the window was painted in pale gold, the light of a new day. I whispered, "This is the beginning." In that moment I wasn't broken anymore. I was a man reborn, with vengeance as my compass. The apartment turned into a war room. Papers sprawled across the floor, maps pinned to walls, threads of red string connecting every clue. Emily's hands shook as she taped another page to the board. "This feels dangerous," she whispered. Michael leaned against the wall, his eyes sharp. "Danger is the only way forward." I circled the room, mind racing, piecing Daniel's empire apart one connection at a time. My voice was steady, darker than before. "We won't just catch him, we'll dismantle him." A silence followed, thick and absolute. In that silence, my plan began to take shape like a blade forged in fire. We spent hours tracing money trails and contracts, unraveling lies Daniel thought were buried. Emily said, "These accounts link to him. It's undeniable." Her voice trembled, but her eyes held courage. Michael smirked faintly, muttering, "The higher they rise, the harder they fall." I leaned over the table, scanning every number, every signature, my heart pounding faster with each revelation. "He built his empire on sand," I said quietly. Emily placed her hand over mine, grounding me. I whispered, "And we'll bring the whole tower crashing down." My words hung heavy, but they were no longer a threat. They were a promise. The plan deepened with each passing hour. Michael laid out the first step: infiltrate Daniel's network through one of his enforcers. Emily's breath caught. "That's suicide," she said. I shook my head. "It's survival." Michael's eyes narrowed, testing me. "Do you have the stomach for this?" My jaw tightened. "He stole my life. I'll take his piece by piece." Emily grabbed my arm, her voice cracking. "Promise me you won't lose yourself." I pulled away gently, but my eyes never wavered. The man I once was had died. What remained was someone Daniel could never anticipate. I walked the empty streets that night, my mind sharpening into a weapon. Neon signs flickered, rain puddles reflecting fractured light. Daniel's voice echoed in my memory, smug and untouchable. I whispered into the night, "Not for long." Emily's warning haunted me, but my heart had crossed a line it could never retreat from. Michael's teachings replayed in my head: patience, precision, execution. Every step I took felt heavier, yet more certain. For the first time I saw a path not of despair, but of control. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was setting the trap. By dawn the pieces aligned. Michael sat across from me, silent approval in his eyes. Emily stood at the window, arms crossed, watching the sunrise. I laid out the plan aloud, each step spoken like a vow. Expose his fraud, turn his allies, break his mask. My voice was firm, controlled. Emily turned, her eyes wet, whispering, "Don't forget yourself in the fire." Michael nodded slightly. "The fire is what will purify him." I clenched my fists, the sunrise painting the room in gold. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was destiny. The first strike began in shadows. I pushed through the bar door, the stench of stale smoke and spilled beer clinging to the air. Neon signs flickered above cracked walls, half the bulbs dead, buzzing faintly like insects. Victor sat in the corner, shoulders hunched, his heavy frame blending into darkness. His eyes tracked me coldly, calculating. I slid into the chair opposite, placing the folder on the table. The wood was sticky, etched with carvings of forgotten names. Victor's brow furrowed, his hand hovering near his glass. "Why should I even look at this?" he growled, his voice like gravel. I leaned in, my voice low, sharp. "Because Daniel doesn't need you anymore. And when he's finished, you'll be nothing but dust." His gaze flickered, a shadow of doubt in his hardened stare. Around us, laughter and broken conversations echoed, but in that corner, silence grew heavier than the smoke. Victor finally reached for the folder, his thick fingers leaving smudges on the paper. He flipped through contracts, offshore accounts, and falsified deals. His scowl deepened with every page. "If this is real, he's been bleeding me dry for years." I didn't flinch. "It's real. He treats everyone as expendable. Today it's me. Tomorrow it's you." He slammed his fist on the table, glasses rattling, liquid spilling. Conversations at nearby tables faltered, eyes briefly turning before looking away again. Victor leaned in, his voice a whisper filled with venom. "You're playing a dangerous game." I smiled faintly, though my stomach churned. "The only game that matters now is survival." His smirk twisted into something darker, a predator considering new prey. The gala shone like a palace of lies. Crystal chandeliers glittered as laughter rippled across polished marble floors. Daniel stood on stage, glass in hand, surrounded by applause. Emily and I stayed cloaked in shadows on the balcony, the orchestra's soft strings drowning in whispers. "They're questioning him already," she murmured, her hand brushing mine. I studied the crowd below. Some allies clapped half-heartedly, others exchanged uncertain glances. My lips curled into a quiet smile. The Empire trembles. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled furiously, the first cracks beginning to form. Daniel's grin stretched wide, but sweat gleamed faintly at his temple. For the first time, he didn't look untouchable. He looked mortal. Later that night, the deal was sealed in an alley bathed in neon haze. Victor tossed a USB into my hand, his tone flat. "His accounts, movements, backdoors, everything you need." My pulse raced as I stared at the tiny object, heavy as destiny. "Why give me this?" I asked. His smirk was cold, bitter. "Because I want to watch him choke on the empire he built off our backs." Rain drizzled down, pooling in neon-streaked puddles. Emily's voice echoed in my mind. "Don't lose yourself." I clenched the USB tight, whispering, "Then we burn him down together." Victor turned, fading into the night, leaving me alone with the weight of war. Back at the apartment, the storm followed me inside. Emily stood at the window, arms crossed, her reflection fractured by raindrops on the glass. "What have you done, James?" Her voice cracked, equal parts fear and love. I dropped the USB onto the table, its clatter like a gunshot. "I've set the trap," I said, my voice steady. Michael rose slowly from the corner chair, his eyes unreadable, carved from stone. "This path is lined with blood," he warned. I met his gaze without hesitation. "Then, I'll walk it." Emily's tears shimmered under lamplight, but she said nothing. The city outside pulsed with neon and thunder. Inside, destiny pressed heavy on the air, binding us all. There was no return. Only the war ahead. The USB revealed horrors bigger than I ever imagined. Every file was a doorway into corruption, fraud, and lives ruined. Offshore accounts stacked like towers of stolen souls, bribes flowing like rivers of poison. My pulse pounded as I scrolled, the glow of the laptop burning into my eyes like fire. Emily whispered with dread, "This isn't about you anymore, James. He's feeding on people who never saw it coming." My lips curled bitterly. "Then I'll be the shadow he never expected." Michael's voice was gravel, slow, and deliberate. "Once you open that cage, the truth will claw everyone. Be ready." But I was already past the point of return. I didn't want justice anymore. I wanted Daniel's empire reduced to ash. I dove deeper into the files, hands trembling, but eyes relentless. Each transaction was another nail in his coffin, yet every discovery felt like acid poured onto my soul. Emily's trembling hand touched mine, her voice breaking. "If you leak this, you'll become his target again. He won't stop until you're destroyed." I pulled my hand free gently, determination coursing through me. "He already destroyed me once. This time, I'll return the favor." Michael's shadow loomed, his tone gruff, but edged with reluctant respect. "This is more than vengeance. You're stepping into a war zone." My chest rose and fell as I whispered, "Good. Let the war begin." Then came the file that broke me. A contract signed by Daniel that gutted entire families, names listed like cattle sold to slaughter. My chest heaved, fists slamming against the desk, papers scattering. Emily flinched, covering her mouth as tears welled. "This isn't business," she whispered. "This is destruction." I swallowed hard, voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Exactly, and it ends tonight." Michael stepped closer, his stare unyielding. Be careful. Once you strike, you'll feel the fire lick back at you. I raised my eyes to him, fury steadying me like steel. I don't care if it burns me alive, as long as he burns too. The words felt final, like I had signed my own contract with vengeance. Emily's voice shattered the silence, trembling but firm. James, please. You're not him. Don't let him drag you down with him. My throat tightened, but my reply came fast, defensive. I'm nothing like Daniel. Yet even as I said it, a shadow of doubt scraped at my ribs. Michael cut in, sharp and merciless. Every man chasing revenge swears the same before the darkness swallows them whole. The words stung like salt, and wounds I hadn't admitted were open. Emily's eyes searched mine, desperate to find the man I once was. But the man she loved was gone. What stood before her now was a blade honed for one purpose: to cut Daniel to pieces. My dawn decision weighed like iron chains around my chest, but my resolve was unbreakable. I packed the files into a battered black case, each paper heavier than lead, each page a blade aimed at Daniel's throat. Emily stood frozen by the window, arms folded, face streaked with tears. "If you do this, you can't come back," she said softly. I paused, meeting her gaze with tired eyes. "There's nothing to come back to." Michael rose from his chair, his weathered hand landing firm on my shoulder. "Then carry it like a soldier. No faltering." The city skyline flared orange with morning light, the new day painting long shadows across our faces. I clenched the handle of the case until my knuckles whitened. It wasn't just evidence. It was execution in paper form. The gala pulsed with shallow laughter, a fortress of wealth shielding the guilty. Daniel's charm oozed across the room, his grin painted with arrogance. I slipped through silk dresses and polished shoes, each step a drumbeat of war. Emily's whisper was a knife in my ear. "We can still turn back." My voice was low, unshakable. No turning back. The case in my hand felt heavier with every stride, as if it carried not just paper, but the weight of every betrayal. Michael's shadow loomed from the balcony above, his gaze like steel. The chandeliers above shimmered like fragile crowns ready to fall. My heartbeat merged with the music until I realized, tonight, I was no longer the hunted. Tonight, I was the executioner. The orchestra paused, leaving Daniel basking in silence as he raised his glass. "To truth and progress," he proclaimed, savoring every syllable like poison dipped in honey. My steps echoed louder than the applause, each one cracking the mask of grandeur. I reached the stage, unlatched the case, and flung its contents into the air. Papers spiraled like feathers of a dying bird, falling across crystal tables and velvet gowns. Gasps erupted. "Lies!" Daniel snapped, his voice pitched high with fear. Emily's lips quivered as her eyes locked on mine, silently begging me to stop. But I didn't stop. "This is who he is," I roared, the words shaking the chandeliers themselves. His kingdom of illusions trembled under the weight of truth, and in that moment, every eye turned against him. Chaos unraveled in waves. Guests whispered like vultures circling carrion, their pearls and cufflinks trembling as they distanced themselves from Daniel. His voice cracked. "Forgery. He forged it all." His words stumbled, tripping over fear. Reporters scribbled feverishly, flashes cutting through smoke and perfume. Emily stepped from the shadows, her voice carrying calm fire. "It's over, Daniel." He froze, jaw twitching, sweat dripping under his perfect collar. Michael descended, his heavy steps echoing like a verdict. I remained still, letting the storm spin around me. Daniel's empire didn't fall with an explosion. It collapsed with whispers, with truths unraveling his lies, with his allies scattering like dust in the wind. The guards swarmed, flashes blinding as cameras roared. Daniel lunged, desperation unraveling his mask. "You ruined me." His voice cracked, pitiful and feral. I caught his wrist mid-swing, grip unyielding, my glare slicing through him. "No," I said coldly. "You ruined yourself." Emily gasped, tears catching the chandelier's light as she covered her mouth. Michael's hand pressed onto my shoulder, steadying me in the maelstrom. For a heartbeat, The world froze. I could have ended him right there, broken him with blood. But I released him, letting the truth finish what I started. Daniel screamed as security dragged him away, his empire in ashes. The applause that once fueled him had turned into silence sharper than any blade. The gala lay in ruins, silence heavy as smoke. Papers littered the marble like the feathers of a slain beast. Emily approached slowly, her hand brushing mine. "It's over," she whispered, voice trembling with fragile hope. I looked at the devastation, the shattered glass, the broken empire, the echoes of Daniel's screams still hanging in the air. "No," I said, my voice low, steady, final. "This is only the beginning." Michael lingered in the shadows, his eyes unreadable, as if seeing something in me I couldn't see myself. Emily's tears glistened, half sorrow, half pride, as the city's neon glow spilled in through tall windows. I walked into the night, the marble floor echoing my steps. Behind me was ruin, ahead was rebirth. Daniel's betrayal had ended a chapter. Mine had just begun.